Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Welcome back. And Cindy looks like she's bundled for Siberia next to me here.
It's so cold.
Yeah, I think it's about 66 in the house. Uh-oh.
It's freezing. It's cold.
This was our exclusive for Patreon. Again, there are exclusives typically going up twice a week, sometimes 3 times even, over on Patreon. And yes, there's connections. There's connections that we don't dare talk about on YT. And there's reasons why, because they'll just simply be pulled right down immediately, as we are still in the thick of things as far as the censorship issue going on. I've shown this before multiple times. You see we get our little reptilian humanoid Wikipedia here. This is, this says 3 years ago. In reality, this was farther back than that. This was 5 years ago. But this was me, Cindy, and Sassy, and Zeke out in the desert across from Nellis Air Force Base. And what do we see here? We see a very high-speed drone. I mean, very high-speed drone. This is at quarter speed. And watch it. It comes from here and it shoots past. None of it's fair. Did you catch that? And no, I'm not drunk there. I'm just, again, it's at quarter speed. But really, none of it's fair. So you see, there it is. I say a drone, it could be a ship. What it feels is very gray and reptilian, and being right next to Nellis, that obviously would be the more than likely the case. Again, we saw things all the time. We caught things all the time on our own videos. So we absolutely know. We don't postulate to us. We absolutely know. We have absolutely zero question marks in our mind as to the reality of ET technology, and also the fact that our own government right here is and has always been working with ETs.
I think that's where a lot of people still kind of get stuck. They just don't believe it. They can't believe it. I guess until you really have these experiences for yourself, you can't stretch beyond what you see in your own 3D world. But there's a lot more out there, and we've been exposed to it. And there's good parts to what's out there beyond 3D, and there's bad parts that people get exposed to. So I guess it kind of depends on what you expose yourself to, but realizing that everything going on around us, there's technologies that we are not aware of. We're simply not aware of. So with that said, knowing that they can pull some pretty crazy things. Like, I have heard some very large YouTube channels say, it's just ridiculous that they could steer a hurricane. It's just silly, and just belittling and making fun of those who know that there's a lot more out there than what's to be seen. It's like, we know there's these technologies. We know that it could happen. And, I really think that there are certain big YouTube channels. I mean, as long as they go around with a certain narrative, they're going to be able to grow. They're going to be able to expand. They're going to be able to reach people. Because this matrix is very careful to not let itself be given up. It's very careful to keep everyone in this little grid of control. And it's really quite frustrating when you're sitting on the outs, like Mike and I are. We're on the outside looking in. We can see these things. We're trying to tell people, and they're just shutting us down very slowly. I mean, it's like a slow death, but it's happening. And the world out there is very real. And I think if we all knew the extent of it, we would really come together in a bigger way than what we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we've had hundreds of experiences, hundreds and hundreds of experiences, because we're awake, and we also kind of stick out because our light bodies are activated through our practices, which doesn't include mind-altering chemicals. As this is talking about, a gentleman by the name of Danny Goler has discovered that if you smoke a certain thing and look through a laser, you can see what appears to be numbers and letters, a code running through our reality. It's repeatable and has been performed with hundreds of people seeing the same thing. We've had these things appear to us naturally, but what you have to understand, or what I should say, most people don't understand, is that doing a steady, daily, prioritized spiritual practice, mind, body, breath practice, can enable you to do these things kind of at will. And this is part of what's being alluded to in many of the Marvel sci-fi storylines when they talk about these new people that are mutants, so to speak. They have different abilities. Well, this is just normal human abilities. People don't have normal human abilities during the Kali Yuga because your abilities are being suppressed through, again, things like fluoride, through things like even your belief system locking you down to where you have these experiences and you say, no, that couldn't be real. No, that couldn't be real. No, that couldn't be real. It's impossible. It can't be real. It's because of how locked down our minds have been. Also, the frequencies that are out there, because we are walking through a toxic EMF soup every day. So the reality is, again, there is a natural matrix, and then there's an artificial matrix. There are the two. And again, when you access your human potential without necessarily using other substances, and certainly there are some substances that are worse than others, the point I want to get across is you can achieve all these things if you're just dedicated and you have patience. Now, this is why the system makes us have TikTok mindsets. And I don't have time. I can't focus. I have too much to do. I have too much work. I have to get back and, see what the Kardashians are doing. This is what keeps humans from realizing their potential. It's the GMO foods. It's the junk foods. And it's the toxic environment. The reality is, in an age other than the Kali Yuga, which again we are stepping out. We have put our foot down in the Bronze Age, in Dwapara. So our reality is changing. As Cindy keeps saying, the dimensions are being squished. You are getting, actually, if you're one that's a Bigfoot enthusiast, you're getting a lot more encounters with Bigfoot and other type of cryptid beings out there. Why is that? Well, it's because, no matter what they do, as I look out at, again, artificial gray skies that are loaded with aluminum, barium, and nanu, no matter what they do, all they could do is slow down the process. They can't stop it. We are awakening. There's nothing they can do about it. They're just going to try to do whatever they can do to keep as many within their control grid. And again, the power system here is a lower astral realm power system. In other words, literally the power structure that has been in place on the planet is totally demonic. So, from that point of view, yeah, absolutely. We are being ruled by the dukes and grand dukes and, the royalty of literally the hellish realms. This is what they are. This is who they are. We're moving past that. But here you go. Now we're going to go into a period of time where they're no longer able to keep us from seeing the reality that there's many different layers. There's many different dimensions, densities. There's an uncountable vastness of different consciousnesses out there that we are interacting with, and we did interact with even in the Kali Yuga. We just were totally not cognizant of it. we didn't have the perceptive abilities to even see it. We were kind of just totally sleepwalking for thousands of years in the Kali Yuga, believing these belief systems that hid all this from us. So, here he's seeing that when you apply a laser and you use a certain substance, now DMT is produced in the body naturally. You could actually trigger that production naturally just by doing mantras. By doing Sanskrit mantras, you could literally trigger that over time. And what I've noticed from probably 40-something years of Qigong, which just is a form of energy work, cultivating the life force, pulling energy from the ether, and probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of repetitions of mantras, is it only takes a few, literally, only maybe even one mantra at this point in time, and I could feel something switch on tangibly. I feel my chakras totally. I have felt my chakras totally for years, and not every chakra, because there are thousands of chakras, but I could sense the layers to my energy body. I could sense all the major chakras. Cindy as well. Cindy could view people's chakras from, oceans away. We have clientele that we've done, us being here in the United States, and clientele in South America, Europe, Asia, Africa, regular clientele from all over the world, and she could read their energy body and tell them exactly which ones are opened and closed, because that's just part of her natural abilities, which a lot of these things transfer lifetime to lifetime. What you gain in that manner, you can access if you have a dedicated spiritual practice. You can access your abilities from past lifetimes to a degree. Sometimes we suppress them in order to have an experience that is new. And sometimes they come on later in life, and a lot of that has to do with the Saturn return too, when some of the programming that you've agreed to for yourself, when you come in here, starts to let go, and we could tap into latent abilities. You could tap into abilities of your grandparents and great-grandparents. It's in your DNA. There's so much to our reality that if we are just looking at it from a very simplistic point of view, like the mainstream religious point of view, without understanding there is a reason why there's a mystical side to all these things, because the mystical side is looking past the obvious and seeing what really is underlying our reality. In which case here in this experiment, they're literally picking up on some of the programming. Now, what we're getting is that they're mostly picking up on literally the internet. They're seeing the internet. They're seeing what's being put out there by our routers. They're seeing also the programming that's a little bit beyond the internet in the dark matrix that we're within, and we still have that here. This is actually the full interview, which is 2 hours and 43 minutes long. Code written into he's terming it a DMT world, but the reality is, again, you could trigger that naturally. It is a natural substance in the body, and you could trigger it through doing mantras. In fact, when you do Sanskrit mantras, what happens? Well, it affects the vagus nerve, and it shifts you from going into the fight or flight. It shifts you into the rest and digest. It has a healing effect on the body. It also, when we do the Sanskrit, which is a language that has a higher frequency than English, it's going to raise our frequencies. And certain mantras, literally, again, there's 55 Sanskrit sounds in their alphabet, corresponds to the 55 petals that are on the main chakras alongside what we would call the Wuji pole, the Taiji pole, which is basically the center line of the body. When you look at, for instance, the shape of a sperm with that rounded head, and then it has a tail, and realize that that shape is still you. That shape, that rounded head becomes your skull, and that tail is your spine. And along that are 7 chakras that have 55 petals. The 55 sounds of Sanskrit will trigger the opening of those petals and open up chakras. So this is why we do our mantras in a certain manner. And we start with the root chakra and with Ganesha's mantra. Because literally these beings, when we talk about Ganesh, you could view him as somebody that's able to tap into and override the natural programming of the natural matrix, because that is his function. Very, very different being than, say, like an Enlil, an Enki, a Marduk, a Ningishita. These entities that are just basically space pirates, for lack of a better term. And those reptilian entities, which are using part of the unnatural matrix to control our frequency and to keep us from understanding these things.
And there's so much involved when it comes to consciousness and awakening. And I mean, we're huge proponents of do this naturally, and there's a reason for that. That to me, it's very important, and it's very personal, and it's what I've witnessed, and it's what I know is, there is a place for plant medicine. There is a place for these things. So I'm not saying that they are bad. There's a place for them. Sometimes people have brain damage. Sometimes people have serious brain injuries, and this is very helpful in helping them find a good quality of life where they can function and be happy and have their brain work better. So in that sense, it's also, there's some of these plant medicines that can go along with end of life therapy. So they can be very helpful for people when they are passing, to ensure to them that, yes, you're not going to just disappear. You're going to another place. But finding it in the natural way is so, to me, it's very important, because if you just go and do this, you're almost like you're jumping the consciousness line. And when you do that, and these guys kind of talk about it in here, when you do that, you can find yourself in some sort of therapy. You can find yourself caught back up in the matrix, because they're just not ready for it. And when it comes to Mike and I, we have done the consciousness therapy. For myself, it is mantras, meditation, eating clean diet for both of us. But I also had these abilities when I was very, very young, and you'll hear him talk about these beings that are next to him, and they are just as real as Mike is sitting next to me. And I understand that to the core of my being, because that was my experience. When I did see someone, to me, they were 100% real. There was no reason to question and ask anyone if they were there, because I knew that they were there, and it just never dawned on me that other people couldn't see them. Not until I was in my early 20s, and I had a conversation with my father, and I asked my dad, like, Dad, where did these people go? And my father looked at me and he said, sweetheart, there was nobody else. There was nobody else. And at that point, I mean, my jaw hit the floor, because I was old enough to know that I had enough people tell me that that's not normal, that's not okay. So I went along with that belief and went along with that thinking, and I blocked it all out for many, many years. That was probably subconscious. But when you're a child, it's very innocent, and it's right there. And we do have the abilities to call it back and bring that ability back, which I have now done. And but it took me a very long time. So I don't need these things to help bring that into vision. But I just found it very curious that it's happening to more and more people, and they made this discovery. I also picked up that, yes, they are picking up the Internet of Things, all of these packets, all of these numbers, all of these little bits of information that we cannot see going from device to device to device. Yes, they are seeing that. And they're also seeing some mixed in with another layer of energy. So being very careful, what are you tapping into? And then, are you tapping into something that's really true? Is it going to help you in this 3D realm? That's my thing. It's like, how is this going to help you? Do you need to know for therapeutic purposes? That's fine. Then find out for therapeutic purposes. But really, there's also a lot out there where people just keep other people from living in the 3D. It's like things should be applicable to your 3D world. If they are helping your 3D world be better, then that's great, But if it's not assisting you in the 3D, then, well, what are you calling it in for? Because sometimes it can cause a lot of trouble, and you need to have the discernment and the wherewithal and the understanding. How do I utilize this information to make my life better? So, I mean, it's a lot, and it's interesting because I do see the dimensions collapsing in on each other. I do see people seeing things that, otherwise were not there. I just want people to do it safely because I know what it looks like when it happens and it's not done safely.
And imagine all the stuff that's coming through us, around us, and just blanketing us when you look at the number of these satellites that are up in space. And, again, you'll have people that, you see these random comments. And even Elon made a comment. Somebody had asked him, is the Earth round or flat? He said it's roundishly flat or something like that, flatishly round. Again, the Earth is, it's everything we see is a holographic projection. But from our perspective, I mean, what's the bottom line when you're trying to say the Earth is flat? What is the bottom line? What are you trying to prove? Well, they are hiding stuff from us, as what we've gotten again is the Earth is about 4 times larger than what they show. We're on only a small section of it. You can liken it to the area up in say, the Arctic Circle, for instance. We're only looking at that. There's many lands and much of the Earth that is not available to us at this point in time. And so, from that point of view, absolutely. Space is not a void. That's the other thing. Space is more akin to an ocean when you get down to it, a less dense ocean than the oceans of Earth. But at the same time, it is more akin to the ocean in that it is full of life, and life abounds everywhere because, again, this is created for us. In this video, they do at one point in time, start talking about CARET. What does CARET stand for? Commercial Applications Research for Extraterrestrial Technology, from Palo Alto, 1986. Now, some people have debunked this, and it doesn't matter. Nothing really hinges on any one piece of evidence because there's an abundance of evidence. We could be debunking stuff all day long, and you'll never get to the end of the evidence that shows that there is extraterrestrial interdimensional life. Of course there is. Again, it's clearly stated in the Sanatana Dharma, which literally means the same as the Tao. It's the eternal path, the eternal way, and it again is some leftover knowledge that has been given to us from extraterrestrial beings in past ages, the ones that actually tell us the truth, not like the control system. So this is again talking about reverse engineering certain drones and technology from UFOs, UAPs. And this is supposed to be showing some of the symbology, and this is why this was in this particular video, because what people are seeing, some of it looks very similar to this. Both Cindy and I have seen various shapes, language, I guess you would say. You would call it language. We've both gotten this in meditative states. And Cindy has gone up in ships. I believe I've been up in ships as well, multiple times, and that's part of why I also feel, to me it's obvious that the Earth is not flat, but yet there is lies there that the flat earthers have caught. Everything, when we look at the nature of things and we look at the shapes, again, it is all a holographic projection. But when we're in this reality, we could say that they're roundish, absolutely. And then the Earth again is Tiamat. Tiamat being resurrected, Tiamat was much larger than Earth is. So this is why we have giants the size of mountains and remnants of that from Tiamat's time. And Tiamat is in our estimation billions of years old, where Earth is nowhere near that old as far as its recreation. But when we look at this symbology and these patterns that are supposed to be taken from extraterrestrial drones and craft, we do see similarities. There are strange characters that don't fit exactly the Sumerian script, nor exactly the Hebrew, or exactly the hieroglyphics. They seem to be a little different, a little different from any of that we have. Maybe again, it's a proto-reptilian script. Perhaps, as here you see some objects that are supposed to be from these craft, which may or may not be legit. This is again another item, and it doesn't all depend on this, because whether this was truly just a big elaborate hoax or not. I remember seeing this glowing script come. It was rolling before me, kind of like the way Star Wars does in the beginning, where they catch you up on what's going on as the script passes away. And it was kind of glowing. It was curious. It was some sort of communication. I'm not really sure whose. Again, we have the dark matrix that's more imminent, and then the natural matrix. The natural matrix, again, is what we return to when we're in, say, the Golden Age or the Silver Age. The Bronze Age is our journey to get away from the dark matrix and put that in our rear view mirror as we move more into the natural matrix. And so the Bronze Age is really the age of discovery and curiosity and realization of so many things. This is 17 pages going into the correct documents. Again, fascinating stuff. Again, this is we've never been not under the influence of extraterrestrials and interdimensional beings during the entirety of Earth's history. During the entirety. These are other ones that we took. I was sitting in a chair. This was at our friend's place in the greater Los Angeles area, and this was 2019. And we had just done mantras with him, and then we went out into his yard, and he was seeing like different ships up in the sky regularly, and we saw those. Actually, I would say they're more entities that we saw, and then we got this still of something moving extremely fast. And again, it's a very, very high-speed drone that comes and buzzes so close to the camera. And I don't think we have the original video anymore. I'm not sure. I have to try to find it. They removed so many of them. And we have done probably 5,000 videos. So
I never saw it coming. It was interesting because Mike was just talking on the video, and he had it pointed up to the sky, and we didn't see this thing. We didn't see it until after we replayed it. So, but it was definitely after mantras. And what I found fascinating, and what I still find fascinating, is we were with another person that was activated, and he could see and he knew other things, and we were seeing other things in the sky, and they had wings, and they were huge, and it was amazing. And this goes along with a time in my life where I was just needing to know things. I was needing to have certain experiences, and I do believe the Star family came forward and they showed me, yes, we are here, we are with you, we are watching, don't worry, don't stress. And we were given these things, and it was just, to me, I found most of this, I find to be a blessing. Most of my experiences are. Some are extremely disturbing, but that's something that I need to work through. That's something inside of me that I just need to work through. But I would say 95% of the experiences that we have had are quite positive. They're curious, they're intriguing, they're fun. It's like, oh, okay, and how can I, what are they trying to say to me? Because usually they are trying to send a message of some kind, and it's up to us to interpret that message, since they can't just come out and talk to us the way we talk in the 3D, because they're in another dimension. But from time to time they are able to show themselves, and these are times where we got it on camera and we saw it in person. So quite fascinating.
In that other video, the large video here, he talks about seeing a frog being talking to aliens. We've had encounters, and we still have little jokes between us with certain beings. Like, I'll say, I wonder where so-and-so is, and sometimes Cindy could connect to them and say, well, he's far away from here. Or, sometimes she can't find them again, but usually she could find them. There was one little guy, I want to say he was about maybe 2.5, 3 feet tall, very, very odd looking. This was out in the Nevada desert. And, he was just curious of us. And we were both in a probably like an alpha state. And, we're way away from everything. Where we were in the desert, Amargosa, Nevada, right across from Nellis, and we were not in, with other people. We were at a little bit away from the rest of, the settlings in that area. Just there's so little frequency static that it was so easy to perceive. We both got the exact same impressions. Now we're seeing him with our third eye, but he was literally outside our RV. And he was walking by, and he was curious, and he was kind of tilting his head, looking at us in a curious way, like saying, what the heck are you? Why do your energy bodies look a little different? Because again, and that was about 5 years ago, there's more people activated now than there was 5 years ago, because the sun, the galactic energy, these energy waves that are coming in are activating people, and so people are going to have these experiences more often. He was just curious about us. He didn't feel threatening, but he was certainly odd looking. I don't even know how to really describe him. Kind of like a semi more friendly looking gremlin type of critter, I would say, but a little bit bigger and more humanoid. But certainly we saw him, and we described him to each other to a T, because again, we're perceiving with the third eye. Again, if you want to, basically activate yourself, I would definitely recommend the Sanskrit mantras first and foremost. And Qigong, doing the two combined together will activate your pineal gland. They will help to shake off the calcification, and they'll also pull you up in frequency.
Mm-hmm. They will pull you up in frequency, and it's a thing where you definitely want to focus on working past your traumas and understanding that your temple is sacred, and everything that you put in your temple is going to alter your experience in some way, shape, or form. And it could either clarify your experience, or it could, bog down your experience. So our temples are here for us to, they're filters for us to see and perceive and understand that there is other worlds out there, many other worlds and many different beings. And so many are here to help us, our guides, our angels, our star families. And yes, there is a difference between all of them. We have our primary angels. We have angels that come and go. We have other beings that we pick up along the way. And they're here. They're here to help us. And it is nice to get the clarity of mind, body, and spirit to allow them to come through at times when you really need them, times that are really difficult, when you're trying to make a decision. You're trying to find that part of you, the authentic part of you and look past the trauma and see, where am I? Sit down and check with yourself and say, where am I? And a lot of times when you're able to do these Sanskrit mantras and find healing, you're able to hear them, and they can be very, very grounding. But you definitely want to be sure who you're listening to, and are they adding happiness, and are they adding positivity to your life. That discernment becomes everything. It's so important you always want to be bringing in something higher, something better, and looking, being able to work through the traumas is so key when we're dealing with things of this nature.
Yeah, and I want to just bring up one topic which really should have a whole video or series of videos on, but it's the fact that, substances really have their own frequencies. So when you look at big FARMA, for the most part, that's all going to lower your frequency. And that's something to be very, very aware of. So if you're having any sort of encounters with entities, and one is in a drunken state, then obviously you're going to be pulling in very low frequency entities. If you are having encounters again, and you're under the influence of so many things that they need so many disclaimers for, may clear your acne, but may cause this, that, and the other thing. That's a lower frequency, substance as well. So what's it going to pull into your sphere? Your energy circle? It's going to pull in things that we would definitely call demonic. It's just part of where this system utilizes different substances that will lower your frequency. So all you're probably going to have is negative experiences because you are literally calling more demonically oriented entities into your sphere. Conversely, if you're doing, say, Sanskrit mantras and you're in a peaceful state, you're going to be driving those things away, and they are not going to want to come near, because you're raising your frequency and you're pulling it up into a higher frequency. If you're listening to some peaceful, music and doing Qigong, or even if you're just listening to the beautiful peaceful birds and squirrels and animals out there, and you're doing Qigong and connecting to the earth, you're probably going to pull in higher frequency entities. So if you are again doing a Ouija board and you're drunk, you're going to obviously pull in demons and demonic entities. That's just par for the course. This is where, like, Aleister Crowley went wrong. He was experimenting with all these mind-altering substances of a lower frequency and lower nature. And, of course, who's going to get to you? It's going to be the Greys and the Reptilians that are going to be connecting to you. So, even with that substance that's now medicinally legal in many states, it's not very high frequency. It's not as low per se as big FARMA, and it's not maybe as low as alcohol, which literally alcohol, that word is in Arabic, and it means a sort of demon entity, literally, when you look to the origins of the word. So those are low frequency things. That other substance we're talking about is not very high. It's certainly not as high. It's not as low as those, but it's not as high as, say, just simply doing mantras or doing Qigong, or what you can get in meditative states. This is why it's a borderline thing. Why are they making it legal now? Because our baseline resonance, for those that are clear of the system's toxic frequencies, or is more clear, is higher now, to the point where that is no longer something that is going to really serve you. But if you need to, for whatever reason, because there is, again, the receptors in our body for, for, let's just say, plant medicine. I understand all about this. I've gone to seminars. It could serve a function. So I wouldn't say that it's as bad as some other things, but the reason why they're making it legal now, they are making it legal, is that it's at a certain point our resonant frequency is raising to where it no longer raises you up. It's more of already on that same frequency, or if you are somebody that's very high frequency, it could lower you. So just to be aware.
And, this is all for safety. It's not a judgmental thing. This is a safety thing because we've seen enough people have a very difficult time with their awakening. And we're talking safety. So, it's just something, be aware of it. Make sure you're walking in awareness because this is a very real thing that we are all going through together. And we choose to do it the safest way possible.
As always, guys, thanks for your support. We couldn't do it without you. Come join us on Patreon. Exclusives going up every week. Source bless. Namaste.
Namaste.